So, usually, I get what I like to call drive-by commenters, right? I'll make a video that's usually way outside of my norm. And it's really, really topical. And it's something that's just blown up massively. And I'll just hit the right combination of, well, it's under a minute. The thumbnail is literally Pedo Hub. The name of the video is literally Pedophile or Pedo Pornhub. All of these just jarring fucking things. It hits a point where it reaches beyond my normal audience. Like, if you look at my statistics, I think I average like 95% of my views are from subscribers. I don't really get a whole lot of new people in it. That's fine. But sometimes I'll reach beyond that. You know, I'll cast a really wide net. And what do I always say? When you cast a wide net, you catch ugly fish. And I only caught 2 really ugly fish. And I thought one of them, or I thought they were both just going to be, you know, drive-by commenters. And it was just going to be, you know, and then they were going to run away. So I answered their comments. And as of the point of this recording, one of them has actually responded to my video, responding to their comment from my other video. So he responded, and it's, I mean, I'm not even going to bother to read it. The gist of it is enough. It was essentially going, ugh, and now these girls are going to be raped? Like, what's wrong with you, man? What the fuck, you know, how ridiculous are you to even think of this shit? Look, there's a rule with which I live my life. There's a rule with which I live my life. And it's called the worst possible outcome. Or as I'm now calling it, in honor of Cardi B and her wet ass pussy, I'm calling it WPO, WPO, right? It's the WPO philosophy of life. Worst possible outcome. What is the worst possible outcome? And I will give you an example of a time in which I ran that philosophy through my mind and I thought it through and blah blah blah, and actually I was correct in my worst case scenario. Almost. I was almost correct in my worst case scenario, and who knows? The world is still chugging along and we're all still living in it as far as I'm aware. So I am essentially Schrodinger's cat at this point as far as that prediction goes. But I'm on the path, like, you know what I mean? So here we are. When I decided I wanted to be a YouTuber, it was because I wanted to do a podcast with Dennis, because I wanted to have an excuse to tell the girl that I was living with at the time to go away and leave me alone for a day. And I thought the worst possible outcome is she'd figure that out and refuse or want to be in on the show or something like that, and it would just make things even worse. Like, that was the worst possible outcome. And everything worked out fine. Dennis came over and we did, you know, every week on Sunday we did the fucking thing, and yay, right? It was awesome. And so then, you know, I moved away from her, and Dennis got sicker and sicker, and, you know, I was sitting around at home all the time by myself. I was living by myself for the first time ever in my life. I had always had roommates in one sense or another up to that point. At one time my roommates were my mom and dad again, and it was embarrassing and all that, but it helped me a lot. So now I'm back on my feet and I live on my own, full-fledged man, kind of. So yeah, and And so I was like, well, I'm watching all these gamer tubers, and that looks like fun, and I bet I can figure out how to do it, and maybe I could do it, and do that, and wouldn't that be fun? And I went through the process of figuring out how to do it, and I got all the shit that you need to do it, and I went, yay, I'm doing it. And I did video gaming stuff. But that's an extraordinarily saturated field, and you've got to be like, you really have to have a personality that resonates with both children and adults. I do not. I don't really generally like kids very much. So I don't really, like, I can't do the clown show. Like, I tried that for a while, and they're funny videos as far as I'm concerned, watching back to some of them. Like, some of them are fucking, they're cringy as shit for me to watch. Like, dude, there was one game that I hated, Deadlight. I did a review for it, and man, I went really fucking overboard, because I tried to force some shit, and it's just awful. It's just awful. It's such an awful video, and it's so cringe, and I don't even know why I leave it up. Probably just because it's to embarrass myself, because it should be out there. I was such a douche back then. I hated myself back then. And that's why I quit. Like, you can watch my channel just peter off, and I don't do it anymore, and then I just doing unboxing videos for Loot Crate. And the only reason I was doing any of that shit was because I just wanted to keep doing something with myself that was like a connection to the outside world. Otherwise, I'd just sit at home all day and just shrivel up and die. And that'd be fucking sad. But, so, you know, and then I started watching a lot of political stuff because it was 2016, the election. So I started watching a lot of political stuff, and I started seeing a lot of dumb shit. Like, back then, it was still pretty, like, what is it called? Like, you know, below the surface. I can't think of the word. Nope, ain't coming. You know, there was a degree of shame to it. Like, they tried to hide a little bit. They weren't as blatant as they are now. The opposite of blatant. I still can't think of it. Anyways, yeah, so I started to see all that shit, and I started thinking to myself, I could make some funny videos out of this. And I started doing just little goofy editing stuff. And then I started watching people doing commentary video, Bearing and all of them. And I started thinking, man, I can do this, I'm funny. You know what I mean? And so I started doing commentary on stuff. And at every point, I asked myself, what is the worst possible outcome? The worst possible outcome began with my girlfriend could want to be in on it, which would just suck, because then I would have to have her in on it, and I'd never have any time alone, and that would stink. But she was very understanding, so that didn't happen. And then, when I wanted to do gaming, the worst possible outcome was I would get really, really popular, and then I would have to pretend to be that asshole every day for the rest of my life. That's like a circle of hell. I didn't want to do that. So I did that, and then I saw that it was happening, and I was like, no. Like, the worst possible outcome developed as I did it. I could have to do this every day. God, that would suck. And so I said, yeah, no, I'm not doing it anymore. Because the worst possible outcome was a price too high for me to pay. That I would have to put on that person every day and do that horseshit every day. That was a price too high for me. So I quit. And then I started doing this, and I thought to myself back then, what's the worst possible outcome? And the first video I did really kind of showed me the worst possible outcome. Because I got somebody who watched the video. It was an anti-Hillary Clinton video. And I was using Hillary Clinton clips to make Hillary Clinton look like kind of an idiot. It's not hard to fucking do. And somebody posted a comment. It was like one of my first comments ever. I think it might have been my first comment ever. And it was really, weird and out there, and like this was back in Pizzagate and all that shit, so it had that kind of like feel to it of she's the Antichrist, and I'm like, this is a scary person, and that kind of like showed me the worst possible outcome, that some crazy person would get infatuated with me to the degree that they would hunt me down and, like, who knows, rape and kill me, I guess, would be the worst, right? Like, rape, torture, and kill me? That would be really fucking bad. I can't think of much else, you know what I mean? Like, find all my family members and rape, torture, and kill them in front of me and then rape, torture, and kill me? Like, how far do we want to get into insanity here? But, nevertheless, I don't want people hunting me, no matter what the end is. So, right? And I was like, thought about that, and I was like, I think I could mitigate that myself to a degree, because I'm not an idiot. I don't just collect swords because they're cool looking. I spent 3 years of my life dedicated to swordplay. My name is Nugo Montoya. For 3 years, I fought buffer weapon fighting, full contact swordplay, with weapons that have some girth to them. So these weapons that I have on this rack over here, that you guys saw in the Cribs video, don't, you know, those are more legit weapons in my hand than in probably most other people that might break into my place. And I keep them right there in the doorway for a reason. I want to see what other people are going to grab for, because I know exactly which one I'm getting. You know what I mean? I know exactly which one is a good, solid weapon that could be used in combat, and which one looks really gnarly. You know what I mean? I know the difference between the showpieces and the actual weapons, and they're all mixed in there. So, because if somebody grabs that big Buster weapon, the big, like, pieced-together Buster weapon from the Advent Children movie, first of all, if they grab it and pick it up and swing it, it's extraordinarily heavy. I mean, it's extraordinarily blade heavy. You really have to put your weight into it. It's huge as well, so they're going to hit the fucking wall, which is possibly going to bury it right into the fucking drywall, depending on how hard they heavy that fucking thing back. And then the whole thing's going to fall apart, because it's all very loosely connected. It's not really a well-constructed thing, and you can't really make one better constructed than it, so it's actually pretty decent. So I know that if somebody grabs that, they're fucked. You know what I mean? So, like, I'm very tactical in the nature of the way I live my life as well, because I said I think I can mitigate that concern. And I got myself a gun. I got a 22, because I was like, I'll go do some little range shooting. That'll be fun. You know, I'll have it for protection if something should happen. And it'll be fun, too, because I can take it to the range whenever I want and buy a box of ammo and go and pop off a box of ammo. You know what I mean? Like, that's fun, you know? So I'm like, yeah, fuck it. And I got myself, like, a couple $100 gun. And, yeah, I was like, I think I'm fairly okay. You know, I consider things to that degree. And so I started to get more and more popular, started to get more and more subscribers, cast myself a wide net. And I got a very ugly fish. And I've never told this story on the show before, but it's been a very long time since I've had any hint of this person. So this is almost just kind of like throwing some chum into the water to see if fin comes up. You know what I mean? Because if I get any sort of anything that I know, okay, he's still there, great. You know, be vigilant always. So yeah, I wound up getting a guy that was DMing me through Twitter, and I had a Discord server, so he joined the Discord server, and a lot of things happened. It's a big, long story. I'm not going to tell the whole thing. But nevertheless, he had told me that he was schizophrenic early on, and I respected him for that. We had discussed his schizophrenia, and he told me that he was medicated and all that sort of thing, and blah, blah, blah. What he did not tell me was that if he gets upset in like a major way, then he decides to self-harm. And one of the ways that he self-harms is he doesn't take his medication. He didn't tell me that. But, you know, I'm pretty affable. And I keep boundaries, but I'm firm but fair. You know what I mean? I don't make bones with people. I say this is what I will allow. And if you step out of the boundaries of what I'm okay with dealing with, I let you know. Again, the degree varies, right? So, you know, he started to step out of line with a female that was also in the Discord server. So I had to play parent, and I reprimanded him. But it was like there was a lot of things that had happened in the span of about a week. Shit degraded really, really fast in my Discord server, which is why I don't have one anymore. It's why I don't really use Discord. It's why I don't really go on the internet anymore to do anything, really. I don't really look at Facebook a lot. People have been messaging me through Facebook, and I've been getting the notifications, so I've been able to answer them, and that's pretty cool. But people are also messaging me through Twitter, and I don't get the notifications, so I see that shit whenever I look at Twitter. And the last time I looked at Twitter was a couple of days ago, and the time before that was like a couple of months ago. Because I don't like social media at all. I don't want to be on it, period. I don't want other people to be on it, to be honest with it. Like, I'm not going to advocate banning it, because I'm not one of those, I don't like it, so you can't have it type of people. But I don't like it, and I would heavily encourage people not to engage. Because that's just me. It's just advice. I'm not telling anybody to do anything. I'm suggesting shit. So, yeah, and so he started to get really nasty. And I began to realize what was going on a bit too late. And it was too late to talk him into going back on his meds, because he had already gone past the point. And he began to develop a delusion. Apparently he was delusional schizophrenic. Another thing that he did not inform me of, he developed the delusion that I was God, and this girl that he wanted was the Virgin Mary, and that he was Satan. So anything that I said in regards to this girl, he was just going to outright do the opposite of, because he was Satan, and that's Satan's role. So I immediately disengaged and said, alright, look, dude. I said, you need to get yourself right. You need to get back on your meds. You need to check yourself in somewhere, get some help. And I'm like, and this is it. I have to cut ties with you. I'm like, you have gone so far beyond the pale. I can't with you at all anymore. And so I blocked him on everything I could find him on. And I, just shut his shit down with regards to me. He has no contact with me whatsoever, and has not for years now. And every time he has tried, I like, he sent me an invite on LinkedIn, which I am not a part of. Thank God. And I never will be, just because of that shit. Sent me an invite on LinkedIn. So I got on LinkedIn just to ban him, and then I deleted my account. Yeah. So I'm like, man, this is just fucking wow. And so, yeah, I think I have like 6 of his email accounts blocked on my email, like that kind of shit, dude. So the worst possible outcome was somebody crazy would become obsessed with me and hunt me down and it got up to the hunt me down part. That has not happened yet. I have mitigated as best I could. And I think very tactically with the way that I lay out my apartment and with where every little surprise that I have just kind of randomly around is. So, you know, there is that. And that's why when I see things like this movie, I think if I were a parent of one of these girls and somebody came up to me and said, "We love your 11-year-old. We've seen her videos on YouTube. We'd like to hire her to be in this movie, wherein she will be doing booty dancing for an audience of possibly millions." I would think to myself, what is the worst possible outcome of this? And the worst possible outcome I could think of is somebody would see that movie, become obsessed with her, hunt her down, and who cares what from there? All of it's bad. There is no... And hunt her down to give her a beautiful bouquet of roses and say, "I really loved you in that movie," and then never ever have contact with her again. That ain't the worst possible outcome, and that's actually the most least likely thing that happens when somebody hunts down somebody else. It's gonna be bad. No matter what it is past that, it's all bad. All of it's bad. Especially if it's my 11-year-old daughter. It's all bad. All bad. If I were the person thinking I want to make a movie wherein this happens, I would think to myself, what is the worst possible outcome that could come from this? That somebody become obsessed with one of these girls, hunt them down, and who cares what past that? It's all bad. I don't think that makes me a sick person. To think, what is the worst possible thing that could happen if I step out into public view in this degree? Perhaps you, as somebody who the most stepped out into public view you are, is a commenter on YouTube. Perhaps it's odd to you that somebody would think to themselves, what's the worst possible thing if I could do this? But I actually consider that shit with videos I make. I considered it with the documentary that I made, the so-called documentary that I made. I thought to myself, what's the worst thing that could happen? I thought, well, because of the simplicity of it, because of the title that I'm putting with it, because of the thumbnail I'm putting with it, the way that it is just a smack to the face, like, this could go for how long before YouTube sees it and shuts that shit down? How big is it going to get? Could this blow up to 1 million views in a couple of hours? Because that's what it would have to take. That's what it have to, for my channel to blow up like that, millions of views in hours. That's what it would have to take. Does this have the potential to do that? And I'm like, possibly. I mean, it's so simplistic. It's less than a minute long, and it is such a punch to the gut. Like, it's a sledgehammer. I said, fuck scalpels. It's time to actually say some shit in a harsh fucking way. And I took a sledgehammer to the public and put that shit out there. And when it was averaging like 100 views an hour, I'm like, uh-oh. I'm like, here we go. You know, and then it got up to like around 600 or so, and YouTube kind of put the kibosh on it. And 100 or two have trickled in since then. So, alright, YouTube saves me again. Because the fear is, I blow up that big, people actually watch other of my videos, wind up on the news. So you made this documentary. What are you trying to say here? You didn't get it from the video? Really? Play it. It's only a minute long. You got a bleeped version? Like, I only say one cuss word in the whole thing, too. Well, one legit cuss word. Other people would consider masturbate to be a cuss word, especially in that context. Like, you couldn't actually say masturbating in that context on like network TV. So as far as network TV is concerned, I said 2 cuss words through the whole fucking thing, or maybe 3. I don't know how many times I said masturbating. Whatever. Anyways, so nevertheless, right? That was a possibility in today's fucking, right? But I underestimated, I underestimated how much they kind of tamped down on any talk of pedophile stuff. So, you know, I was suppressed before I got too big. Because if I get too big, other people will see this shit. Other people will bring up other shit. I mean, Twitter will become a buzz with every other video that I've ever posted on Twitter. For years now. That has just been sitting on Twitter for years now, not doing anything that nobody's giving a fuck about. And then all of a sudden, now everybody's going to be like, oh, clutch our pearls about what the fuck he said 2 or 3 years ago when fucking it was just all fun and games. Yeah. And then I'm going to have to go through that shit. And then I get canceled. YouTube fucking takes me down. And then I'm sitting around going, well, now I'm living alone and I got nothing to do again. But, you know, bitch shoot. But nevertheless, right? I lose all that I have established over the 6, 7 years that I've been doing this shit. I lose all of that. Just to make a goofy video about something that I just think is kind of naughty, and I want other people to just consider when they watch these videos, when they allow their kids to post these videos. I just want them to consider this thought. That's it. What is the worst possible outcome? That some pedophile is going to fantasize about fucking my kid. Who knows where that leads to? That's it. I just want you to think about that. That's it. Again, I don't think it's too much to ask. But I so often think that there's not too much to ask in certain things that to me are just rational and logical, but hey, whatever. Nevertheless, worst possible outcome, WPO. WPO. Fucking the WPO way of life. Whenever you're thinking about going on social media and posting anything, what is the worst possible outcome that might happen from this inflammatory, terrible thing that I say or do? It is something that I quite literally consider with every video I make. That's why they've become so boring and torn down lately, and I just kind of make random jokes way late into the video. When most people aren't watching anymore. I know how to game the system. And it's those of you that watch the entirety of every video that get the entirety of everything that I fucking say, and you get to laugh about these fucking comments too. Oh, he's talking about the people that already quit watching 10 minutes ago. 20 minutes ago. I think my average watch time is something like 6 or 7 minutes. So, you know. So everybody watched the entire... I actually haven't looked that up. I want to see if anybody even clicked out halfway through that fucking video. That would be funny to see the stats on that fucking video. Alright. Anyways, so there you go. That's why I thought that shit. That's why I bring that shit up. That's why my brain is capable of going there. Because to me, there is one person in the entirety of reality that you can rely on to protect you. That's you. You are the only person that is with you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You're it. It's just you. You're the only one around you when you're alone, and you're the only one that is closest to you when you are with other people. You are the best and first and last line of defense against anything that might come after you. It's you. You're it. That's it. Just you. Protect yourself. Consider things like that. If my kid posts his video online, what's the worst thing that could happen? Isn't that even like a saying? What's the worst that could happen? Well, let's actually consider. That's a fucking rhetorical question to you? Okay. Well, good luck with that. That shit ain't a rhetorical question with me, motherfucker.